everyone? I don't see anybody. Let's see. Let's see this. Hello, everyone. Can you see me again? I see hello from Sweden. I see hello from Prague. I see Mikhail. I believe Mikhail is from Germany, right? Hi again. Who else do we have to feature? We have France in the house. Should I say Elle s'appelle Hélène? Or would that be too much? How is everybody? We have Cincinnati in the house. We have Texas. Yay! Hi, David. We have Holland. Yes, we have Holland. I love it. Excellent. Anyone else wants to say hello? So, guys, I did my quick live before, but then I had interview. So I had to interrupt myself. It was a fabulous interview. Hopefully it will come together soon, as it has been recorded. We had a lot of things we talked about. And of course, I could not finish my first live because we finally got together for the interview. So, see who we have. Yes, we see you, Mikhail from Germany. Yes, here you are. We have Washington. Love it. Tacoma, Oklahoma. Keep saying hello, you guys. We'll post everybody who says hello. Okay, I'm missing a comment here. Zelensky, go home and ask other countries for more money. Let's see who is commenting here. Lori Ackerman. Zelensky, go home and ask other countries for more money and ammunition and so forth. Stop asking American taxpayers for it. We gave you too much as it is. Go find some other country to help you, like Poland, period, and other UN nations. Excellent comment regarding Zelensky and the fact that we gave too much already to him, but he keeps coming back and he keeps asking us for more. the new amount on top of 105 billion that's floating around in Ukrainian aid coffers, so to speak, that the Congress, every week there is another billion. So anybody who lost count, join the club. I did, to the extent of it's probably over 100 billion. Some people mentioned 105. And of course, these are commitments, so maybe not all the money is there yet, but the money will be there yet. But now there is another 45 billion, but then on top of it, Biden yesterday said another 1.8 billion. I don't know about you guys, but this math doesn't make sense. With this amount of billions from United States alone, the streets of Ukraine should be paved in gold, but they're not. Ukrainian people are standing in lines for technical water because they don't have running water and nobody's fixing it really. And of course, there is all these infrastructure strikes, but hello, in some of the cities, they didn't have it before even Russia started strikes. It's just insane. And the amount of dollars do not make to regular Ukrainians. That's a tragedy. If you, as a good American, think that your money comes to the Ukrainian mother or father or grandma or grandpa and makes a difference in their day-to-day life, well, Biden says we are paying for social services of Ukrainians. We're basically paying their government salaries. Did you know that? And we are paying for their, I don't know, health. Insurance or not, but they have the health services, social services, pensions, government has salaries. This is all paid by American taxpayers. How would you like that? We basically have 51st state of United States on our balance sheet. That's not contributing to us, but we're contributing to it. It's insane. So let me see what comments we have. Thank you, Lori, for your comment. Did I get Sweden? I did get Texas before. Let me keep scrolling. Washington. From Los Angeles. Okay, let me see. From Los Angeles, and my wife is trapped in Ukraine, and mother, I surely appreciate your updates. Thank you, Ron. Yes, it's tragic. If you think about, guys, it's tragic for Russian people, it's tragic to Ukrainian people. I'll explain why. I used to live there. I speak both Russian and Ukrainian. If you imagine, right now we're in United States, right? So we have Michigan, we have Illinois, we have Indiana. Imagine that a foreign government came and intervened in our American state affairs and rose a faction of people in one of American states, right, with a foreign money, and decided that they're going to make a coup, which that's what happened in Ukraine in 2014. And Victoria Nuland, who is at that time the Secretary of Eurasian Affairs, I believe she started under Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State and then continued further. Then Victoria Nuland handpicked Ukrainian government in 2014. So there was a coup, and in Ukraine, legally elected president was removed. Well, imagine, God forbid, if that happened in the United States, and all of a sudden, the faction of the people took power, sponsored by foreign government in America, God forbid again, and then that faction started dictating and saying that, no, we cannot speak American English anymore. We now have to speak, I don't know, some other language, make it up. And then we cannot do this, and started to basically assert themselves as the only allowed ethnic group that can dictate to the rest of us, and started fighting. And we would have fights between the states, that people have family in one state, people have family in another state. And then people would actually hot fight with weapons and kill each other. That's what's happening in Ukraine. Ukraine was a part of Soviet Union. There has never been in history the state of Ukraine mentioned before 1917 plus after Russian Revolution, when Bolsheviks, Lenin and his comrades, took power and broke up Russian Empire into pieces, into 15 pieces, and they created these 15 pieces, 15 republics, and gave each one of these pieces a new name. And for the part which was the territory of Ukraine, which was a part of Russian Empire, never called Ukraine before that, Bolsheviks selected the name Ukraine. So there was a small percentage of Ukrainian people. They've brought a lot of Russian people during the Empress of Russian Empire, and they built a lots of cities. The shipbuilding grew because of the Empress Catherine the Great founded the city of Odessa. One of her favorites, Potemkin, founded the city of Nikolaev, which is now Ukraine calls Mykolaiv. And the Kherson is a city, also shipbuilding city, that was founded all during that era of Russian Empire. But when Bolsheviks came to power, they took care of breaking up Russian Empire into 15 pieces, and they called one of the pieces Ukraine. So when the Bolsheviks' power in Soviet Union fell apart in, I believe, 1992-ish, after the Gorbachev and all these guys basically decided to dissolve Soviet Union. So then Ukraine inherited the name Ukraine and became an independent state. But for the 80 years of Soviet power, people in Ukraine, being a part of the Soviet power, spoke Russian. All of a sudden, when Ukraine turns to become independent, it wants to ban Russian language. What? People have spoken Russian on the entire territory of the former Soviet Union for at least 70 years that Soviet Union was there, and Ukrainian was a second language. But now that Ukraine is independent, it bans Russian language. It wants to only Ukrainian be the national language and the only spoken language. You can't have a media in Russian. You can't teach it at school. What is going on? Independent Ukraine is supposed to be all this beacon of freedom, and it's banning a language. Why are you so afraid of language? What kind of democracy, quote unquote, that Pelosi sells us, that Zelensky bring us here, that he's fighting for democracy? That's insane. That's dictatorship. So imagine if the states that we are Texas, let's say, and who is nearby there in Arizona started fighting all of a sudden, or Michigan in Indiana or Illinois. You have family likely in both states, and then let's say your brother-in-law is on one side in fighting in the Russian army and another brother-in-law in the Ukrainian army. That's the absurdity. That's a tragedy of this war in Ukraine. And that's the complete disaster of us Americans supporting this bloodshed of brotherly nations. This is insane. And of course, they bring us Zelensky to parade him is this a doll to sell us on, gosh, look, how nice I look in my sweat t-shirt here and my sweats, whatever this thing is called. I don't recall the proper name for it. But he wants to charm us with his t-shirts and his sweatshirts. And we're supposed to shell him $45 billion every time he comes. So that's ridiculous. Let me see who has next posted the comment. So I feel for you, Ron, that your wife is trapped down there. Conditions, I understand, are terrible. People do not have power. People don't have electricity. People don't have water. While Zelensky and his wife are on the road doing photo shoots, collecting applause instead of sitting down at the table and talk peace. And of course, Biden and EU does not want peace either, so he's not alone in that. Here we have comment from Daniel. Ukraine government is just as corrupt as our government in America. Yep. I've recommended the movie called Ukrainian Lives Matter in my previous live. You can Google it or look it on my Facebook page. Scroll it down. It talks about the dealings of Biden, of Hunter Biden. There are some Polish politicians It's just one big happy family. You just guys will be really amazed. And of course, remember how Biden bragged about firing Ukrainian prosecutor who was investigating Burisma oil, where Hunter Biden, Biden's son, has become a legal chief counsel with a salary of $50,000, I believe, at the time in about 2014. Surprise, surprise, just after the coup happened in Ukraine, quote unquote, Hunter Biden gets a job in Ukraine for the oil and gas company. Ooh la la, what a coincidence. And Biden, president right now, but at the time was vice president to Obama administration and was every week flying to Ukraine. Guys, this doesn't get more complicated than that, but it's also very simple. Yes, they're all in cahoots, they're all corrupt, and that's insane and it's tragic. But check out the movie called Ukrainian Lives Matter. It actually starring Biden and Hunter Biden, movie made by Ukrainian investigative journalists, where they explore what they call external governing of Ukraine, starring Hunter Biden and Joe Biden. And I do have a video of Joe Biden bragging that he basically threatened the President Poroshenko then in Ukraine. I believe that was in 2016, that he would, Biden, being a vice president at the time, would withhold the loan guarantees, I think it was $1 billion, to Ukraine unless Ukraine fires the prosecutor who was coincidentally investigating the Burisma oil company where Hunter Biden was employed as a chief legal counsel at 2014, following the coup that was instigated by the West in EU, which Victoria Nuland handpicked Ukrainian government in 2014, which Victoria Nuland in 2013, speaking to the business people in Kiev in Ukraine, has said that the United States invested $5 billion to bring democratic changes in Ukraine. And basically, they were soliciting the riots against the legally elected president. The rest is history. The president at that time was Yanukovych in Ukraine, legally elected, democratically legally elected president who actually had to flee, fearing for his life. He was ran out of the country, and Victoria Nuland, our famous American Victoria Nuland, handpicked Ukrainian government in a famous phone call conversation where she famously said FEU. Yes, Google it up. There is a transcript with BBC and everybody else reporting on that. And of course, she's never apologized, I don't believe. And if she did, hey, maybe I missed it. But yes, so she is handpicking Ukrainian government, and we want to sell American people the illusion that Ukraine is independent country. That's why we have to help it to fight off this bad wolf Putin, because he wants to take Ukraine's independence from Ukraine. Are you kidding me? Ukraine is dependent on the United States, and we have basically hijacked that country in 2014. And our corrupt politicians, together with their corrupt politicians, has been bringing this country to its demise as we see it now. And unless these idiots stop, there will not be any more Ukraine on the map, guys. So sorry, I talk too much, but I'm so excited that I see all your comments here. Let's see if we have some other comments. What about Russia? What Russia is doing in Ukraine is giving the Ukrainian people their freedom back from the corrupt government over theirs. Well, you have a point. Absolutely, to the extent that Ukraine was bombing its own people. Can you imagine if, God forbid, one of our states started to get bombed by government in Washington? That wouldn't be allowed. But in Ukraine, it was happening for the 8.5 years. Well, our own government here in America lied to us and said to us that, oh, no, it's Putin. Putin's army doing it. What army? Invisible Putin's army? We know now Putin's army is there. It's 2022. but it wasn't there in 2014 following the coup. And those people in Ukraine who did not want to have this coup government, the people in Ukraine who said, listen, we had elected president. Where is the guy? What did you do to him? You ran him out of the country. We do not want to submit to coup government. We didn't elect you. Oh my gosh, the coup government, together with American government, who was facilitating that coup, together with EU, they didn't like it too much that these people had audacity to protest peacefully the coup government. So what do these people get? These people get bombed. Yes, they get bombed by Ukraine. Oh, talk about civilians. Yes, Ukraine bombed civilians in eastern Ukraine. For the last 8.5 years, it's counting to the 9th year and to this day. So write it down. If you don't know about it, don't comment and tell me that, oh, it's all Putin. I know who is doing it. You should know it too. Ukraine was doing it to its own people. So you guys just should know that. And I've been popular today, so my phone just keeps ringing. So forgive me, guys, but absolutely great people calling me. I know I've already turned the call. But as far as Ukraine bombing its own people, you have to know, guys, there is lots of videos about Donbass children. You can probably find them on Odyssey because YouTube does not want to have these videos available to people. There are lots of great citizen journalists like Patrick Lancaster, like Graham Phillips, a British journalist, like Mike Jones from Earl Grey, I believe he's a blogger on YouTube. John McDougan, American citizen journalist, they have been reported from Donbass. Yeva K. Bartlett, I believe Canadian journalist, she reported from Donbass and the shelling of Eastern Ukrainian areas by Ukraine and civilians that were killed there. So you guys should know about it, and you should do your research. If you just follow the Western media, mainstream media narrative that the Putin is evil and bad wolf and Zelensky is a saint, you're really missing out on the point. Zelensky, when he ran for office in 2019, and you can scroll my page on the Facebook and you can find that video. He promised to Ukrainian people, that's why people voted for him, that he will stop Ukraine bombing the eastern Ukraine, the Donbass region. He made that promise at his inauguration speech, at his campaign, when he was running for office. He told the guy he was running against, President Poroshenko at the time, I am not your opponent, I am your sentence, meaning that he's going to put a stop of this slaughter and genocide of Ukrainian people. Some call them Russian-speaking people. Doesn't matter. The Ukrainian people living in eastern Ukraine, don't care what language they speak. It's not okay to kill civilians, Ukraine. Hello? Your own citizen. Hello? You didn't evacuate them. You sent Nazi battalions to kill those poor people. We know that. Well, because Azov battalion was there in Mariupol. And we do know the swastikas and everything that Azov battalion has. And even United States Congress prohibited the funds to go to Azov battalion. And I don't remember, it was 2018 or 19, because of their association with neo-Nazi ideology. So we don't need to recreate the wheel. The wheel is already there. We just have to connect the dots. So in 2019, when Zelensky was elected president, he promised that he will stop shelling Donbass, but he didn't. Only Ukrainian people got lied to. Not only he didn't stop the war that was already there since 2014, when Ukraine was shelling the eastern Ukraine and militias of eastern Ukraine were trying to fight back the Azov battalions and other neo-Nazi Tornado battalion. I don't know, now they have a new battalion called Kraken. There is so many of them that Ukraine was sending to eastern Ukraine to try to submit those people who didn't agree with Western-backed coup in Ukraine in 2014. Not only Zelensky didn't stop that, he now full-fledged into the war with Russia. And why did this war happen? Well, because obviously Zelensky, at every speech that he could, was saying that NATO needs to expand to Ukraine and Ukraine wants to get into NATO. And here we come, NATO, take us, NATO. And of course, Ukraine never followed Minsk agreements. And Minsk agreements were the agreements to cease fire in Donbass again. So Zelensky, unfortunately, got caught in lots of different lies. And he has not delivered to Ukrainian people. That's why we have this tragedy. And of course, now Russia is seen as a savior. You're right, Daniel. To the Russian people or Russian speaking population, to the Ukrainians who are Russian speaking, or to just regular Ukrainians who happen to know Russian and they want to speak Russian, or who happen to be World War II veterans. Do you realize now that it's not safe to be a World War II veteran in Ukraine? The Nazis and the government will harass you and beat you up because that's not popular. If you'd say, hail Ukraine or something along those lines and showed some swastikas, then you're good. But if you say that you're a veteran or you are a descendant of the veteran or you want to honor World War II veterans who fought against fascism, oh, that's not cool. You're going to get reprimanded for that. So yes, when Russia comes in and Russia says, no, we honor World War II veterans. No, we honor those who fought against fascism and won against Hitler in 1945. We honor those people. When Russia comes and says that, the people of Ukraine obviously say, hey, we like that. We don't want to live under the oppressive government who doesn't allow us to speak language that we choose and who actually harasses us for supporting World War II veterans. Americans fought in World War II, helping Soviet Union together with Brits. Are you kidding me? And the World War II veterans now, and the monuments to them have been destroyed in Ukraine. Everything Russian is being outlawed. The books, they want to burn Russian books. They want to ban the language, and they ban the language, they ban Russian church. There is mothers on their knees begging Ukrainian army soldiers to allow them to bury their children who died in the war protecting Ukraine, but they can't bury them because the soldiers came in and said, this church is a pro-Russian church. This is a Russian patriarchy. We need to close this church now. What? And that's Zelensky. Broke every promise, created the dictatorship, banned all the opposition parties, all the independent media, put the opposition leaders in jail, banned the language, banned the church, nationalized churches' assets, nationalized opposition parties' assets, harasses the World War II veterans, promotes Nazi collaborator Stepan Bandera, Ukrainian nationalist, who was a volunteer SS division battalion working for Hitler during World War II, now the national hero of Ukraine. He gets monuments and the torchlight lit parades in the Kiev, capital of Ukraine. The guy and his unit slaughtered hundreds of thousands of Jews, Polish people, Gypsy, Romani people, and you name it, every ethnic group, and there's blood on their hands. And now he is the national hero of Ukraine, the guy who killed Jews, Russians, Ukrainians, Polish people, Romani people, you name it, just whoever, but Ukrainians. Their slogan is Ukraine is for Ukrainians. You see, nobody else is allowed. That's Stepan Bandera, and that's a national hero of Ukraine. And that's what we're supporting with our billions of dollars. And Pelosi wants to tell us that we're supporting democracy and freedom. Oh, people, I'm talking too much. I'm sorry. You're probably all gone now. That I'm just going on and on the same subject. Let me see what we have. We have Daniel again. If it wasn't for Russia blowing up the biolabs over there in Ukraine, that we would be dealing with a new bioweapon that was worse than COVID. So thank you, Russia, for saving the world from the corrupt government in Ukraine. Yes, guys, those what Victoria Newland calls bio-research facilities, right? So you can't say these are biolabs anymore. They're somehow now bio-research facilities. Are we calling potato? I mean, is that tomato type thing? It's ridiculous. Of course, if you haven't watched, I did. A Russian envoy to UN presented a lot of diagrams, documents, proofs, just tons of materials on the bioresearch facilities, according to Victoria Newlands in Ukraine. Information is staggering what they were doing now there, and how Pentagon supports and finances all of it on behalf of American people, and the experiments they were doing there. It's terrible. It's definitely terrible. Who do we have here? We have Ken. War is sanctioned insanity. Shame on the US for funding war instead of finding peaceful solutions. Don't give me the BS about Putin. The war started in 2014 with the killing of Russian-speaking Ukrainians in Donbass. Great point, Ken. Thanks for your comment. I'm very impressed that you actually know when the war started. Imagine this is a very lonely place when lots of people keep repeating and parroting the mainstream media narrative about bad wolf Putin, unprovoked, everything is just hunky-dory, and Putin is the only one at fault, while conveniently not mentioning what Ukraine was doing to its own people, while we Americans were arming Ukraine all these years. Yes, we did. So all the administrations from 2014, Obama administration, 2 terms, and there was a Trump administration, we supplied weapons all these times. And now with Biden administration, we still supplying weapons to only more. And there's now more NATO countries supplying weapons. But Canadians were training Ukrainian soldiers. Americans were training Ukrainian soldiers all this time. And Angela Merkel, the former chancellor of Germany, just admitted that the Minsk agreement signed in 2014 and 2015 about ceasefire on Donbass that Ukraine never upheld, they were just a ploy, basically a sham. She stopped short of calling it a sham, but she said, I knew we're not going to fulfill this agreement when we became sort of guarantors of these agreements as a foreign countries, and like oversaw the implementation, and implementation never happened. And she admitted that it was just to buy Ukraine more time so Ukraine could build its army and fight. So it's unfortunate that all politicians lied. Ukraine never followed Minsk agreements. Merkel admitted now. Former Ukrainian President Poroshenko admitted that it was all a sham to buy Ukraine more time. But official narrative, it's all Putin's fault. So you guys choose what you believe, but I'm glad there is some people who are not brainwashed to death and who really are capable of research and gathering information, like Ken. Thank you very much for your comment, Ken. Here we have Ron again, a war of greed and power sustained by Biden criminal family. Amen. You guys can watch that movie again. I mentioned it before. Ukrainian Lives Matter. Google it on YouTube. Here we have Mary. Biden is in action. Real Biden is gone long time ago. Oh, the actor. I'm sorry, I didn't see it without my glasses. Oh, really? Real Biden is gone? I didn't get that memo. Let's see what we have here. Andy, they need a distraction from Twitter and COVID information coming out. Oh gosh, how many more distractions can we handle? There's one every day. There's a new one. Biden is an actor. Again, I got the same one, Real Biden. Let me see. I should get my glasses. Let me see. Elena, you a heroine. Yay! Where are you running for office? Well, I ran in 2020. Thank you very much, Ron. I ran during the COVID times, of all the times that I picked to run. I was running in Michigan. I ran in, at the time, was district number 6 against the incumbent, who was Fred Upton, one of the few Republicans who voted to impeach President Trump. So that's a guy I ran against in Republican primary, Fred Upton, incumbent of 35 years, 35 years. So you see, we have these people in our Congress like Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, who else? We have Biden, Clintons. I mean, you just keep going down the list. Kerry's, Romney's. These are dynasties, and these people, I call them my new favorite nickname for them would be political dinosaurs. So they live in their political dinosaurs Jurassic period, and they want us to keep living in that. And because nothing changes, the times change, we change, but our politicians never change. They're there for 50, 40, 60 years. Recent congresswoman passed away. I believe she was 93 or 96, something along the line. There was another congressman who died. It was in the senior age over 90. And these people hold their positions for 30, 50 years. I believe we need term limits. I don't care what party line you're on. We cannot have the same people being in our representative body for half a century without any change. What? This is not self-governing. This is not representative governing. That's career politicians. I don't believe this. America was founded based on the job description. Oh, now you're going to be a career politician for life. No, it was that so you and me and everyone else could participate in Americans' concept of self-governing. But once we have these career politicians, these political dinosaurs who sit there for 50 years, there is no way we can have any a change or betterment, because they're the same people who are there for the lifetime, basically. And they don't let anyone else to come in. Somehow they keep winning those elections, if you know what I mean. I ran for one. I know exactly what I mean. Let me see. We have a couple of more comments. America first. Who is America first here? Yay! America first. Absolutely. America first. Imagine, guys, now we have all the illegal immigrants invading our border, and Biden cares about Ukraine's border more than about our own border, which he actually is responsible for caring. Can you believe that? And our Congress the same way. We have watching from Cameroon. Welcome, Monkey. Hope I pronounced it correctly. See who we have. Daniel Haynes, God bless you. Need more people like you in this world. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much. I always say we don't have a lack of people. We lack people with courage. That's what we need in this world. We need more people with courage. Let me see if I missed somebody. Watching from Liberia. Perfect. Let's see. Biden demanding they change their whole court system, which called for a change in the constitution. If you're talking about Ukraine, Ukraine has changed its constitution over the last several years dramatically. In fact, they added to their constitution that Ukraine is to join NATO by the year 2023. So they actually have it in their constitution. And I believe one of the points of contention for Russia was the fact that Russia didn't want the NATO country on its border. I mean, because obviously the next thing you know comes nuclear little missiles right up to the Russian border. Would we allow Mexico to put Russian rockets right next to our border? Remember the Cuban Missile Crisis? So if we want to look at this conflict from every angle, we have to understand that Russia has warned, Russia has demanded, Russia was promised that NATO will not expand east. It has been years, and it has been more rhetoric coming from Ukraine. Ukrainian army was trained, built, equipped, and basically ready to go fight. So should Russia lay down and take it? Obviously, Russia decided that enough was enough, and here we are. But at this point, there is no amount of money that can make this all better. There is no amount of money that can make it go away. And all wars end up at the negotiating table. So the sooner the United States, the EU, the countries that basically are going on this craze against Russia and bought into the entire Russophobia. Look at the Baltic countries. Look at Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania. I mean, this is insane. I have seen that they're removing again the cemeteries, the monuments, anything to do with Russia, banning people basically saying hello at work in Russian in those republics of Baltic states. That's insane. So the sooner this madness stops, the better. The sooner everybody who is involved is at negotiating table, the more Ukrainian and Russian lives included will be saved. But I'm afraid, guys, that that's not what corrupt politicians want, especially not Biden and not EU. Because at the speech where Zelensky came and talked to Biden, Biden said, "We will support Ukraine for as long as it's there." I thought that was sort of interesting. So for as long as Ukraine is there, are you planning that it may not be there, Mr. Biden? I mean, it was the whole presentation and press conference, Zelensky Biden visit to USA was bizarre. Biden mispronounced Zelensky's name. I think he called him Velensky, something like that. The interpreter said when Zelensky said he's accepting the 45 billion, he said for his country, but she translated for, he said for our country, and she said for our crime. And then she corrected herself, saying country. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you can't have slips like that. I hope she wasn't fired. But then they were standing there laughing and making jokes. And I'm thinking, Zelensky, you're here wearing sweatshirt, and here's Biden looking like a real boss, and you look like a little puppy dog with your little khaki colored sweat in front of the entire world. But that's okay. I mean, if Biden tells you to dress this way, that and you oblige, that's fine, because otherwise you would upstage Biden, right? If you dressed up, for goodness sakes, with a tie and a suit. But that's your business. Who am I to say, right? I'm not a fashion patrol here. But the thing is that these two are standing there, paying each other compliments, and they're laughing while Ukrainian soldiers are dying there on the battlefield. And instead of calling for peace, these two idiots are divvying the money and giving each other compliments on how much they respect and love each other. You want to have a love conversation, give each other a call. You don't need to waste American taxpayer money and fly this Zelensky on American official plane to come visit United States at taxpayers' expense so he could say, I love you to Biden and Pelosi kiss. Come on. Okay, people, I think I'm getting a little bit off the subject here to just insanity all over. I'm watching from Sierra Leone. Here comes West Africa. Indeed, you are saying the truth, madam. Keep on doing the good work. Okay, thank you very much. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. Sarboya. Thank you very much. Yes, guys, you have to remember that politicians are making a lot of money. If you have researched, and if you scroll my page, there's a big scandal that is called FTX. It was a cryptocurrency exchange. The guy who sort of was a founder in his 20s, I believe, maybe early 30s, Sam Bankman-Fried, and he founded a cryptocurrency exchange. And then overnight, it was gone. People invested money into that cryptocurrency. I believe Canadian teachers invested pension fund in it, and it was all gone. I'm thinking $22 billion, whatnot. But the interesting part about it is that the guy was very connected to all kinds of politicians and Congress and this and that, and influencers of Congress and financial committee influencers of politicians and lobbyists. But then he also provided services to Ukraine. Ukrainian government actually invested or helped sort of use that crypto exchange for the money and the aid that it receives from United States. It's insane. So the money goes to Ukraine from us. Ukraine invested in the cryptocurrency exchange. And guess what? The cryptocurrency exchange, Sam Bankman-Fried, was the largest Democratic donor after George Soros. Well, He donates, the last time I've seen, there is different numbers, they're in millions, some 100,000 to the smaller politicians, but he also pledged that he will donate to Joe Biden's campaign for, I believe, next cycle, $1 billion. And so this exchange goes under. But connect the dots. The money we send to Ukraine, Ukraine puts it in crypto, crypto goes debunked, money disappears, but the money does get as the form of donations from Sam Bankman-Fried, the owner of Exchange, back to Democrats and some Republicans. I mean, scroll the page. I believe Jimmy Dore made a big piece on it, and also Fox News. You could Google it up, FTX. And then the guy lives in Bahamas. And then just when he was supposed to testify to American Congress here about his dealings, he gets arrested. So he can't testify. So now he's, I think, released on a 250,000 bail and under house arrest or something like that. But the testimony, everybody was waiting for him to testify. Well, it didn't happen, at least not thus far. So we still don't know what he knows or what he would have said. Should he be allowed to participate in the hearing? But he was arrested just the day before the hearing in Congress. So, okay, guys, it's a big story. Google it up, FTX, crypto exchange, and Fox News had a piece how it all ties up, forcing back to Biden, Ukraine, Democratic Party. It's insane. Oh, I've been talking so much. I better let you all guys go and enjoy your day. I know everybody's busy. I have a winter blizzard here. We are in the middle of winter blizzard, winter storm. So I can be chatting with you for a while here. I have nowhere to go in this blizzard. It's insane blizzard, guys. So who do we have here talking about NATO? We have Marian here. NATO and the alliance are responsible for the most part in the war in Ukraine and Russia. EU economies are already messed up big time, and they can't support Ukraine with military weapons and artillery for much longer. From May this year, mostly NATO soldiers are in Ukraine. Good point. A lot of foreign media is not reporting is that a lot of foreign fighters are in the front lines in Ukraine. In fact, there was an article by RT where I believe already 1,200 Polish soldiers are returning back from fighting in Ukraine, and they will be buried. It's insane that the guys from the front lines report that they hear, in Russian media, I hear that too, that they hear Polish language a lot. They hear English a lot. Of course, American fighters. They may be volunteer fighters, but we do know that there are some American instructors that are helping, supposedly, quote unquote, Ukrainians to service the equipment. Of course, British Army, I think, announced in August that the British soldiers should all write their wills and last testament, because they will need to go someplace and learn how to fight Russia. And of course, we know where, right? We don't have to be, it doesn't have to be spelled out. But there was an article in August, about, I think, August 28th or so, in RT, that British commander told the British soldiers, I guess, I don't know if they have reservists or special legion, to write their last wills and testaments, because they're going to be going for the long deployment to learn how to fight Russians. So I'm assuming that's got to be Ukraine where they were sent. And I did see a lot of videos from Ukrainian soldiers themselves who were videotaping themselves. One soldier actually said he met Germans there. And he's a Ukrainian soldier making a little video. He said, I just met Germans. And it sounds like they are more willing and more eager to fight Russians than some of our Ukrainians who ran away and hid in foreign countries from being mobilized. So there are Germans on the ground in Ukraine too. Who do we have here? We have Patton Beach. I hope I have this right. That's good. We have Sudan. What about Biden as Zelensky? And Trudeau, along with others, just bought and paid bad actors for the powers that rule from the shadow. Absolutely. I'm sure that some of these people are sitting there sipping champagne on their yachts while they show us their little puppets with the little prescripted speeches to read. And how can I call and summarize Zelensky's speech in Congress and Biden-Zelensky press conference? I think I came up with a good one on that. I said it's despicable display of lies designed to make American people feel good while they're being robbed. That's what it is. So, American people, we're being robbed. But in order to make us feel good about being robbed, they're bringing us Zelensky and parading him like a little doll who is spewing out pre-printed speeches and brings us Ukrainian flags with SS insignias on it. Check it out. Yeah, it's not even funny. The two lightning bolts, we all know what they stand, right? On the Ukrainian flag that Zelensky gave to Pelosi in United States Congress. So I rest my case. Merry Christmas from Canada. Yay, Merry Christmas back to Canada. We have a Merry Christmas, all right, guys. I think I probably have 20 inches outside. I'm looking over the lake. I live on Lake Michigan. It's gorgeous, but gosh, it's all blizzardy white out there. And no, I'm not putting my nose outside. I'm definitely going to stay in. So that's why I'm chatting with you. And I hope you guys enjoy chatting with me as much as I do chatting with you. And forgive me, I am new to doing all this streaming and getting controls and reading all these beautiful little comments that you write. Hello to Thailand. Let me see, who do we have? Be your brother's keeper, so United States government is not wrong for assisting of Ukraine. We don't say that we're wrong for assisting Ukraine, meaning the people of Ukraine deserve a token of sympathy for the tragedy that befell onto them. But supporting Ukraine with more weapons to make sure that these weapons will facilitate more Ukrainian death is not supporting Ukraine. We should be supporting Ukraine all along in the form of peace talks with Russia, figuring out whatever these new security context of the security framework in Europe that needs to happen for this to not take place. And of course, Ukraine keep saying that it wants to get into NATO, and Russia said that's a red line. So as soon as Zelensky keeps saying that he wants to get into NATO, which for some reason he didn't say when he just came to United States the other day, but I'm sure Biden instructed him, don't you mention NATO here again. But definitely all sides need to talk peace. And if we keep supplying weapons and think we're supporting Ukraine and assisting Ukraine, all we're doing is we're assisting Ukraine to die. And we're assisting Ukraine to break apart and Ukrainian lives to be lost. We need to assist Ukraine differently. We need to promote peace. And our Congress people and our Biden administration has to get their heads out of the sand and realize that we cannot afford a nuclear escalation and nuclear conflict with Russia. Because if they keep pushing Russia, if Ukraine will keep instigating and keep prolonging, and if Biden will like Boris Johnson admitted that he actually stopped the peaceful negotiations that were taking place between Ukraine and Russia early on in this war this year. I'm not sure if it was March. But Boris Johnson bragged about it that no, we will not allow Ukraine to speak to Russia. No, we want Ukraine to win on the battlefield. Biden yesterday said at the conference, yes, Ukraine must win on the battlefield. We just want to give her more weapons. So these lunatics want to kill more Ukrainians. They're not there for peace. They don't want peaceful resolution. And we just have to realize that they tell us that we are supporting Ukraine, but no, all we're supporting is death of Ukraine at this time. Because if this is not stopped, Ukraine will die. More Ukrainian lives will be lost. It will be a complete tragedy, which it already is, but at the larger scale, each day this lasts longer. So definitely a terrible thing for all nations. Quebec, hello. Noel du Quebec. Joe, I see it's in French. How do I say it? Jean-Noël Ducoubet. Something along these lines. Gosh, who do we have here? William, we have. Wants, boy, yeah, the US wants war, at least the elites do. Yeah, they all want war. They don't care if we have a nuclear exchange with Russia. They don't care if we get into the nuclear winter here in the United States. They think that they can live it out in their bunkers for the rest of their lives. Well, maybe they can. I don't know. But they definitely don't care about regular Americans. Let me see what Linda says. In the call to fire prosecutor was also a demand they change their constitution to get the money. Someone needs to realize this and check it out. To change it, to get the money. Demand they change their constitution to get the money. I'm not sure what money you're talking about, but Ukraine did change its constitution. It's full of very, very weird stuff. In 2018 and 2019, Ukrainian president at the time, Poroshenko, got completely involved in creation of Ukrainian church. Did you know about that, guys? It was insane. Google it up. I'll probably have to do another one on the church alone, because the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, because how church officials handle this, was always a part of Russian Patriarchy, which is located in Moscow. But in 2018, I believe, to 2019, the then President Poroshenko of Ukraine started to make changes and started to say that, oh, we don't want our Ukrainian church to be a part of Russian Patriarchy. We need to create our own Ukrainian church. Well, Russian Patriarchy considered the factions of Orthodox Church that were Ukrainian as what they called anathema. In other words, they were not recognizing those factions of Ukrainian church. But President Poroshenko in 2018, 2019, got together with Constantinople religious leaders and got the approval, which I think they call the approval Thomas, this official approval from the higher hierarchy. I would want to say patriarch, sort of like the highest, I'm thinking, official of the religious church. Literally, the president got involved into church business in Ukraine. And of course, the permission was received. Whatever convincing it took, we don't know. But the Constantinople gave the permission for Ukraine to break away from Russian church, or Russian rather, patriarchy, and create their own Ukrainian Orthodox Church. It's a disaster, guys. It's a mess. And of course, now all the churches who are on the Russian Patriarchy have been harassed and removed and banned. And now even Ukrainian churches that are Orthodox, that say we do not belong in Russian Patriarchy, even they are now harassed and banned. It's a disaster. And we're talking about democracy in Ukraine. Are you kidding me? Only the people who know nothing about Ukraine can say something about Ukraine being any kind of democracy, because it's not. And trust me, I am fluent in Ukrainian and Russian. I know what I'm talking about. Молодец, says Rafael Martinez. Thank you for translating it. I can actually read it. Super, super. And I like the little smiley face. What do we have? Here we have another comment. I'm trying to feature some comments that I didn't feature before. Joe Muir, myself and friends are very well aware of what has been happening in Eastern Ukraine, Donbass. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear it, Joe. Imagine this has been happening for 8.5 to 9 years. And I've been talking about it for that long. As soon as it started, I've talked about the coup in 2014, what happened in Ukraine, how Ukraine was hijacked. It's insane. Very few people who believed what is happening when they heard me say that, because they know me personally. But those people who don't know me personally, and you mention that to them, and they go, Elena, how come I don't see it on TV? And unless I see it on TV, right, it doesn't exist. So a lot of American people basically were living all these years in the dark, and they had no idea what's happening in Donbass. Every time somebody tried to speak, they were either banned, they were ostracized, they were called names, they were called Russian propagandists, you name it. It's ridiculous that you cannot find out the truth living in America for most part. Imagine what it's like finding the truth in Ukraine, where you don't have any alternative media anymore. Zelensky banned all the channels, but nationalizing all, and they basically only propagate what Zelensky tells them. So there is no other alternative news source for the Ukrainian people. And anybody who speaks the truth or who knows the truth is, as well as in the West, and the Ukraine is silenced. I hope I put everybody's comments. There is so many more here. Let me see. I'm trying to find it. I guess maybe next time. I'm trying to find a comment to read. The West creates a war and more war time and time again. Look how many countries have been destroyed by the West. But their days of evil will be ended soon. Yes, we certainly do have a list of countries that have suffered because of the policies and foreign policies of lots of different administrations, lots of different people in Europe, lots of different politicians. All I can say is the current Biden and Smith administration is no better. Unfortunately, we know that Bush administration, the story about weapons of mass destruction and Iraq war, oh my gosh, that was all a made-up story. Because we know Scott Ritter said that he testified that he didn't find as a weapons inspector for UN any weapons of mass destruction there. But that's a story we've been sold by Bush administration. Now Biden sells us a story about this democracy beacon Ukraine fighting this evil Russia. And we know that Ukraine is not a beacon of democracy. It's been killing its own people for the last 9 years. Only our media decided to ignore that. And the world media looked the other way. So a lot of lies in politics. West keeps doing what West does. It takes the media and tells media what to sell. Media sells. They will designate a few puppets, and the puppets will spew some lies. People will buy into it. And the money just keeps flowing, and the corrupt politicians on both sides of the ocean are basically making money off the human suffering. So nothing is new under the sun. All we can do is pray for peace and see if our lunatic elected officials wake up one day and say, you know, this is enough. We need to bring peace. I doubt it will happen, but all we can do is try to call them and remind them that we elected them, or whether they elected themselves, now we don't know, right? That they need to immediately demand peace talks and sit at the negotiating table with Russia. Because if you support United States, you should be caring about American people. If you support Ukraine, you should be caring about Ukrainian people. If you support and care about Russia, the lives of all of us are at stake. American people are suffering because now they cannot afford the basics, and the money is flowing to Ukraine. Ukrainian people are suffering because more weapons are given to Ukraine to continue the war machine, to continue the war with Russia, instead of speaking peace with Russia. And Russia said numerous times it's open to the peace talks. But Biden keeps lying and saying Putin is not open to the peace talks. That's a lie. Every time you open Russian newspaper, Putin is asking for, saying that they're open for the peace talks. Zakharova, Russian foreign minister, we're open for the peace talks. But Biden keeps saying that Putin isn't open to the peace talks. Everybody is lying on the West side, and American people suffering, Ukrainian people suffering, and Russian people are suffering. And of course, the other countries, not to mention the countries of Europe, where people have to accommodate all the refugees. Obviously, their standard of living is going to go down, just like our American standard of living. And we can thank Biden and Zelensky for bringing this war upon in wanting to explore this war until what? The nuclear phase? Is that how we're going? First phase, second phase, the next stop is nuclear phase? I don't know. So we'll see what happens, but the best we can do is pray for peace, and I hope this ends soon. However, it doesn't seem like it, guys, to be honest with you. It does not seem like it. I'm almost afraid that these idiots are going to get us involved in it. There's never a question in my mind that they are lunatics to the degree that they could actually decide one day, wake up and decide to send our troops in there. We already have the troops on the border in Estonia, 20 kilometers from Russia. Hello. And then I think, airborne brigade is already in Romania, should I say, next to Moldova or something along those lines. In other words, the chessboard is getting filled and lots of countries are lining up. The escalation is at play. Zelensky and Biden and EU do not know when to stop. The people across the world have been sacrificed so much to send money to Ukraine. Ukrainian people, and a lot of the weapons don't end up on the front line. The soldiers say that in Ukraine. Ukrainian people don't get the money. All they get usually is a one piece of bread and maybe a canned food item, while the billions float in there. The volunteers in Ukraine who speak about the theft of humanitarian aid get put on the house arrest, get arrested. You can't speak about it in Ukraine. Ukraine has martial law, and God forbid somebody criticizes Zelensky or the theft of humanitarian aid. That's a death sentence in Ukraine. So no matter where you look, this does not have any advantage for any nation, for any country in the world. And unless these idiots, again, in Washington and across the world, in EU and all the other countries who are involved in some shape or form, decide that we need peace talks, this will keep going and it will mushroom. And I'm afraid it will mushroom to the nuclear escalation and nuclear exchange. Very possible. But yep. If you can call your elected representatives and tell them that you feel that we need to sit down and peace talk with Russia now, do it. I know a lot of people don't have faith in doing that because I've seen some comments where people say that they don't listen to us. I agree, they don't. But it's good to at least try versus to give up. And if nobody listens, but if you speak the truth, maybe if enough of us do, maybe it will matter one day. Thank you, guys. Thank you for all your comments, for listening. I have so many beautiful little comments here. I'll feature them here. And see, gay rights in Ukraine. Democrats want gay rights in Ukraine, hence they demand the church that to leave the Russian Orthodox so they will sanction gay marriage. Yeah, they are talking about, Zelensky was talking about, I believe, having to allow same-sex unions. I believe that they are working on it. That's very true. Then the Hamala works, make one more order is their proxies and had me taken out of the pictures. They have been made in hand. I'm sorry, I couldn't read it well for some reason. Let me see who we have. We have Archie here. Yes, Ukraine is an independent country, and as such, Russia cannot tell Ukraine how to go about governing herself. If Ukraine wants to join NATO, it's her business, and Russia has no right to move in military territory to kill peaceful people, damage their homes, vehicles, and roads. Well, you have to do some research, Archie. It's a complicated subject. when Soviet Union collapsed, at the time, Soviet Union leaders, and when Germany reunified, they were promised that NATO will not expand to the east. So they had a particular agreement, whether it was written, whether it was verbal. But since then, NATO expanded. And to some extent, Russia feels that the West did not live up to its promises. So it's a sticky subject. Also, as far as joining NATO, I believe there is something in UN Charter that talks about the reasons and how Russia got in, called Article 51. You may want to also listen to President Putin's speech, where he explained how the reason they got in was a part of collective self-defense, Article 51, UN Charter. Donbass people asked for help. Russian parliament voted to provide that military help. They had it all on paper, figured out. And the fact that Ukraine wants to join NATO, there were several memorandums. There was the Budapest Memorandum. You have to read a lot of papers to get to the conclusion why Russia does have a grievance. And as far as joining NATO, I believe there is something that if you join NATO to gain security, you cannot do it at the expense of security of your neighbors or your others, something along those lines. There's a lot of grievances that Russia has regarding Ukraine joining NATO. Because obviously Russia is concerned about its security, because NATO then can put missiles right up to Russia's borders. And it goes back to the Cuban crisis, the missile crisis that we had during President Kennedy and Khrushchev at the time of the Soviet Union. We didn't like Soviet Union placing rockets on Cuba, right? And so I believe we were trying to put them in Turkey or something. So both were trying to get too close for comfort, and both are nuclear states. So nobody wanted to get the nuclear war started over these missiles. And everybody agreed that, no, we're not going to go there. But with Ukraine and Russia, it might go there if this keeps going. So to some degree, let me see who we have. If you want to see all the hypocrisy of the West, but also the working mythology, it's enough to compare the war in Ukraine with NATO war against Serbia, and everything will be clear to you. Yes, if you guys are not familiar what happened in 1999 in Yugoslavia, it was a tragedy of the Balkan nations when Clinton administration decided to bomb Serbia. And of course, the pretext was that we're protecting Kosovo and this and that. It's a tragedy. It's a terrible thing. And like Scott Ritter said, at least Russia has cited the preemptive self-defense with imminent threat from the side of Ukraine in their Article 51 UN Charter as the reason for them entering in Ukraine. There was no justification for NATO start bombing. I think there was how many countries bombed Serbia at the time? I don't want to say 30, 40. I think President Vucic from Serbia, he spoke in UN a few months ago, and he said everybody is worried about Ukraine and how Ukraine is attacked. Why is nobody talking about my country, Serbia, when my country was bombed by all these NATO nations unprovoked, and you came and bombed us off? Why is nobody talking about Serbia and what NATO did to my country, said Vucic, the president of Serbia. Yeah, so obviously the West has a selective memory and hypocrisy. So yeah, NATO can bomb Serbia and intervene this way, but Russia can't protect itself from imminent threat that it sees as imminent threat, and cites Article 51 of UN Charter to intervene. But NATO can come bomb unprovoked Serbia, a peaceful country, and create a whole bunch of excuses for that, destroy entire nation. For years and years, Serbia and Kosovo conflict still is not fully resolved. There's still tensions, but that's what NATO does. But President Vucic obviously called NATO on the hypocrisy that everybody cares about Ukraine, but nobody cares for Serbia and justice to the Serbian and the nation of the Balkan, at the time Yugoslavia, that has been basically bombed by Clinton administration and NATO countries into ash. That was insane. But of course, nobody thinks about that. Okay, guys, love you all. Sorry for the long talk. I am trying, so take it as my other practice run. We'll talk a lot. We'll take some comments, and we'll say my blizzard is still going on outside, so I'm still going to stay warm here. You all stay warm. If I don't see you, don't talk to you, have a happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa, anything you celebrate. If you just like to get together with family or just by yourself, that's all fine. And enjoy beautiful holiday time. Be safe and stay, hopefully, on my page and subscribe to my YouTube channel so we could keep getting together like this and so we could keep enjoying our conversations and share some truth and sift through some of the Western propaganda and some of the insanity that is being taking place in the world. So love you all, guys, and I see you soon. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, please, and happy holidays.